Hello, it's 22 hours GMT here in Accra, 11 p.m. in Lagos, Nigeria, and 1 a.m. in Nairobi, Kenya. This is News at 10 with me, Stephen Enti. We're live from the News Hub at Adisawe, Kanda in Accra. Let's first start with the major news highlights of the day. The Court of Appeal has dismissed a stay of execution application filed by the National Communications Authority (NCA) following the injunction against Kelny GVG deal. This development means the government would be in contempt of court if it continues to implement the common platform for revenue monitoring, for which it has awarded a contract to controversial Kelny GVG worth $89 million. And only 55 out of the 155 ambulances countrywide are functional, affecting emergency health care delivery. Head of operations at the National Ambulance Service, Foster Ansong Brijan, says with Ghana's current population, about 500 ambulances are required to augment emergency services. The completed health center at Ofankor, which is yet to be handed over, has lost some equipment through suspected theft. The health center has a maternal ward, a theater, a child welfare center, and an outpatient department, OPD. And members of parliament have lauded the United States of America for its numerous support to Ghana, but expect Ghanaian citizens in their country to be treated with respect and dignity. This was after the MP for Ho West, Emmanuel Bejra, made a statement on the floor to mark the 242nd independence anniversary of the United States. And on the international front, President Emmanuel Macron says EU plans to create migrant processing centers in North Africa will not work unless the process is led by those countries. Speaking during a visit to Nigeria, Mr. Macron said many African countries were worried that such centers would act as a pull factor for migrants. And those are our major news highlights. Remember, we're streaming live on our Facebook page and on 3news.com. You can also hear us on 3FM and our affiliates in Tamale, Kesmin 107.1 FM. Let's start with our very first story tonight. In the wake of the impasse between the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Cylinder Manufacturing Company, GCMC, and the board of the company, President Akufo-Addo has ordered the dissolution of the board. A statement signed by the Energy Minister Boachi Ejiako and copied to his deputy ministers noted, among other things, that the dissolution should be done in accordance with the provisions of the company's regulation. This comes weeks after the chief executive officer of GCMC, Frances Esiam, was suspended by 6 of the 9 members of the board over claims that she had mismanaged the company and also awarded some contracts without approval of the board or the Energy Ministry. Prior to the suspension, the board queried Madame Esiam over the allegations of mismanagement. Madame Esiam, who prevented the board members from holding a meeting at the company's premises before the suspension, eventually defied the suspension and returned to work, with the support of the workers insisting she remained the CEO. Right, let's get to Skype now. We do have the head of public administration at the University of Ghana Business School, Professor Justice Bawale, joining us now. Good evening, Prof. We're always glad to have you. Now, could an effective governance structure have prevented these problems that we have experienced with the board of GCMC?
Good evening to you and to your viewers. I think that this had predicted that this was going to happen, that the kind of rancor that had existed between the two bodies, the CEO and his office and outfit, and the board, that this was going to happen. And if you saw in the run-up of the events of these challenges, it was very clear that the ministry and the State Enterprises Commission had actually shown indications that they were going to support the CEO rather than the board. And so this is not surprising that eventually the board got dissolved.
But would you say, Prof, the decision to dissolve the board was correct and timely or in order?
Well, so that's what I was going to say, that this tells us is that it's either the board was not in touch with the reality of in the company, or that there is some bigger political machinations played out against the board. In my view, if the dissolution of the board is based on some proper investigation and the fact that there is evidence to suggest that the board was out of touch with the company and with the realities in the company, then I would think that it is the right thing to do to dissolve the board and to ensure that the company gets to work well. But what this does is that it sets a very bad precedent that if a board comes in, the board and next board is constituted, the board will have to be extremely careful with the way they deal with the CEO, because this kind of emboldens the CEO and perhaps the staff to be able to rise up against the board when one is eventually constituted. And so the history will not be good, and we will need to see a very clear relationship established between the board, the board that will be constituted again, and the CEO. But as I said in some other on some other platforms, I said that the architecture, the governance architecture is quite bad. It is not appropriate to put a CEO in place before you constitute a board, virtually to go and to kind of rubber stamp the CEO. The reverse must be the case, that we must always have a board. The board would interview or evaluate the CEO, just like the rules say, through with the Public Services Commission, and then the president eventually appoints. But if we always put the cart before the horse, we are likely to have events like this happening. And for me, this is very bad for corporate governance in the organization.
And Prof, so finally, I want to know from you whether what your expectations would be before the president puts together a new board, especially to ensure that these problems that the previous board had would not be repeated.
Well, I think in my view, the first thing that has to be done is that even though on this occasion the CEO won, and therefore the board got dissolved, I think the president would have to have a very good conversation with the CEO, or at least the minister will have to have a good conversation with the CEO to let the CEO know that the governance structures require that she report to the board, and that the board has a function to play, and therefore she will not undermine the board, just as the board should not undermine her. It is also important for the posture of the minister and the Public Services, State Enterprises Commission not to unnecessarily interfere in the affairs of a board. It is important that the board is empowered to take decisions, of course, within the rules of engagement, so that the board doesn't become a toothless bulldog in the organization. If we create that impression, then CEOs and even staff of the organizations are going to run around and roll them through and ensure that they get to do exactly what they want. We need to be careful with the politics of state enterprises, and we need to be careful who we appoint into the board, so that people go there with a very clear conscience and intention to help to promote the business of the organization.
Right, Professor Justice Baule, we're grateful for your time. Thank you extremely. Professor Baule is the head of public administration at the University of Ghana Business School. Thank you very much. Let's move on to other stories. The Court of Appeal has dismissed a stay of execution application filed by the National Communications Authority, NCA, following the injunction against the Kelny GVG deal. This development means the government would be in contempt of court if it continues to implement the common platform for revenue monitoring, for which it has awarded a contract to controversial Kelny GVG worth $89 million. The court has also awarded costs of 2,000 Ghana cedis against the government entities. In December 2017, Suba Info Solutions dragged the NCA and the Ghana Revenue Authority to court over the termination of a similar service agreement from 2015. Suba contended that the termination was unlawful. Pending the determination of the substantive case, Suba was also granted an application for an injunction on the award of contracts to third parties by the NCA in February of 2018. And a very important development today, the Ghana cedi has hit a record low over the last 48 hours, a situation analysts have attributed to global pressures as investors continue to exit emerging market assets. The local currency has weakened since the start of May, pegged at 4.82 to the dollar on Tuesday. The Association of Ghana Industries wants government to act swiftly to address the situation.
Cumulatively, the local currency depreciated by 5.3% in the first 6 months, compared to 3.3% in the first half of 2017. The central bank said last month it has significantly increased its weekly dollar sales to banks in support of the local currency. Ghana is in the final year of a $918 million credit deal signed in 2015 with the International Monetary Fund to reduce the budget deficit, inflation and debt, and to stabilize the local currency. Chief Executive Officer of the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, Seth Chumakwabwa, says the association is concerned about measures being taken by government to deal with the current depreciation of the cedi.
Occasional depreciation in the cedi is normal. It happens once in a while, and therefore the current depreciation indeed is maybe of concern, but we don't see it as an alarming. We think that it can be contained within the current financial arrangement. We just need to monitor things and make sure that it doesn't get out of hand. But occasional depreciation in the cedi, for me, is not too much of a worry. What is critical is that within the shortest possible time, it must be managed so that it doesn't overly depreciate.
Some commercial banks quote 4 cedis 83 pesos and 4 cedis 85 pesos when selling a dollar. This means the local currency depreciated by about 70 to 75 pesos over the last 1 week. The central bank has already assured that the changes in the exchange rate are temporary and the cedi will soon see some stability.
Meanwhile, the Deputy Minority Leader in Parliament, James Kluche Avedzi, has predicted a further decline if immediate measures are not taken.
Between January 2017 to today, or end of June, the value of the cedi has depreciated over 26%. So if the simple arithmetic is to subtract 4.8 from 3.8, you get a negative figure. Divided by 3.8 and multiply by 100. You get 26 and above. So that tells you the rate of the depreciation. The demand for the dollar is higher than the amount of dollar in the system. How do we get dollar into Ghana? Through what we also sell outside Ghana, like oil that we sell, like the cocoa that we sell, timber, whatever we sell. But currently, those products are not sufficient enough to give us more dollar. 2017, the price of the fall in value or the price of the dollar didn't go up quickly as we are seeing now because of the borrowing that they did in 2017 in dollars. Now, the borrowing in dollar brought in dollar into the system. So it saw the supply of dollar. So they were able to meet the demand, and for that matter, the price was a bit stable. If they don't go to make a big borrowing and bring dollar into the system, it will go to about 5.1 or 5.2 by the close of the year.
Well, let's get on to the telephone lines now and speak with Professor John Gachi, who is a chartered economist and a senior lecturer at the University of Cape Coast Business School. Thanks very much, Prof, for joining us. So some banks we're told have explained that the development is because most foreign investors are trying to get out of the local bond market due to higher returns in the U.S. market. Would you say this could really be the case?
Well, that will be one of the factors, and that particular factor means not only because of the rate, because you can't tell me that the rate in the U.S. on the face of it is far better, but because the rate has improved in a more stable, predictable environment. Our environment is not as stable as we think, and it's not very predictable to the investors. So the indication is that the investors are moving their money to a more stable, more predictable environment.
And what could this be? What impact could this bring to us, really, from the look of it?
Well, it only means that the demand for the dollar within the country have increased, and therefore putting pressure on the currency. And that may be one of the contributory factors to the depreciation. This settles the fact that external factors actually contribute to this depreciation. And depreciation only responds as an adjustment to shocks of the economy. You will recall that in 2015, 2016, when there was collapse of oil prices, production of gold, for example, was almost zero. That was a huge shock to the economy, and the economy responded by adjusting the value of the currency. We saw sharp depreciation. So this settled the matter that yes, external factor actually has influence on the performance of our currency. And the managers of the economy should accept this and plan in a manner to accommodate this in their effort to manage the currency.
But I mean, we've heard some analysts suggest that the depreciation is not that alarming, and that our concern should be whether the rate of depreciation has been consistent over a period of time. Now, what we're hearing government say is that there are sufficient measures to ensure that this will not worsen further. But the AGI is concerned, other people are concerned, individuals and businesses are concerned, and some analysts also suggest that the speculation could be actually negative if we're thinking about shoring up the value of the city. Do you see any measures in the short term to address this?
Well, I think the short-term measure is what is being done. I think last week they pumped in some amount of dollars. That cannot solve the problem. They may pump in more dollars. That will have effect on the depleting the reserve, and it's also not solving the problem. It is very interesting for people to say that it is not alarming. I need to indicate that all these fundamental indicators are goals, and these goals are supposed to meet expectations. So if the expectation is not being met, you can't tell me that if last week we were talking about the value of our currency to be 4 cedis 70 pesos, 4 cedis 71 pesos to the dollar, and within a week it is now 4 cedis 83, 84 dollars, as much Ghana cedis per dollar. You can't tell me from a volumetric point of view that is not alarming. It is very alarming, and that is why those who are affected so much, like Guta, are expressing dismay about the entire situation.
Right. Professor John Gachi, we're grateful for your time. Professor John Gachi is a chartered economist and a senior lecturer at the University of Cape Coast. Now, news just coming in. 3 persons have been burnt to death after their Nissan Frontier pickup caught fire at Apollonia Estate near Oyibi. Mohammed Amin, who has sent us a report, says he was in a tipper truck just behind the car. The incident, according to Mohammed, occurred around 7:20 p.m. This evening. The police and fire service later arrived at the scene, but it was too late.
Yeah, and this is Mohammed Amin again. People are still burning. People just got burned. Everybody got burned in the car. Oh, pity, it's very pity. We have tried calling the police about, it's about 3 people in the car, and all of them got burned. They are burned to ashes. There is nothing, nobody can do anything about it. Right now, it's already late. It's already late, and everybody is dead in the car. Everyone is dead. Yes, as you can see, the fire service arrived after the car has completely, finished, got burning. After the car has completely got burning. And, I don't think no one will be saved. Nobody will be saved. Everyone is dead. Everyone got burned to ashes. And even the car itself got burned to ashes. So, as you can see, the fire service, the water is now flowing from the tanker. Water is now flowing.
Very depressing images there. Mohammed Amin is a citizen journalist who just sent us this video on our hotline. So we just watched this very sad narrative as 3 people have died in the pickup truck they were driving in around Apollonia City near Oyibi, and they're afraid to be all dead, actually. This is NEWSAT10. We'll take a break on this very sad note. We'll be right back with more news. Please don't go away. Welcome back. Now, President Akufo-Addo has left Ghana for a state visit to the Republic of South Africa. The visit is at the invitation of President Cyril Ramaphosa, and it is expected to deepen further the already strong relations between the 2 countries. President Akufo-Addo also used the visit to explore other areas of cooperation to their mutual benefit. The president will return home Friday, July 6th. And still at the presidency, President Akufo-Addo has charged Ghana's foreign service workers to be selfless in the execution of their duties. Speaking at an award ceremony in recognition of the 10 pioneers of the Ghana Foreign Service, President Akufo-Addo said their work was invaluable as they served Ghana with distinction, dedication, and sense of urgency.
8 out of the 10 awardees, Ambassadors Harry Reginald Amono, Frederick Siegfried, KB Asante, Frank Edmond Boateng, Kenneth Kweku Sinaman Dazi, Abraham Benjamin Ban Kofi, Alexander Kwesi Saki, and Henry Sechi received their recognition posthumously. The remaining 2 ambassadors, Richard Maximilian Akwe and Ebenezer Moses Deborah, received their recognitions as part of the immediate category. Ambassador Ebenezer Moses Deborah said the decision to honor the G10 of the Foreign Service of Ghana is an excellent step. President Akufo-Addo lauded their hard work and urged other service workers to be selflessly in the execution of their duties.
The G10, as individuals or as a collective, represent arguably the best collection of diplomatic talent that Ghana has ever assembled and possessed. It is also a view held by many that because of their achievements, Ghana has become well-known and well-respected all over the world.
And to some political stories, the NPP chairman, aspirant Freddie Blair, has taken delivery of 275 buses his campaign promised all constituency. The buses, according to his campaign team, were secured through a bank facility.
The vehicles are expected to be used for commercial transport service, and the proceeds will be used to finance the activities of such of the 275 constituencies. A part of the revenue generated will also be used to service the $11 million bank facility that was used to secure the buses. Taking delivery of the buses at the Tema port, spokesperson for the acting chairman of the NPP, Richard Nyama, said the buses will be managed by the State Transport Corporation. Already there have been some criticisms from some quarters and some of his opponents for engaging in vote buying. However, this had been denied by his campaign team.
That's how we wrap up with News at 10. Thank you very much for making time. On behalf of the crew, good night. There is more news at 3news.com.